You have probably seen people talking about the Helios-44-2, that vintage lens with a swirly bokeh everyone says makes your footage look cinematic. But once you actually try to buy one, things get confusingly fast. There's just too many versions, serial number myth, and every seller out there saying their copy is rare or mint. I went through the same thing when I bought my first one back in 2020. It looked perfect in photos. It has the same logo and same model everyone said to get. But the focus ring was so stiff. It spent more time in the dry box than on my camera. That's when I realized not all Helios-44-2 lenses are equal. And a lot of the advice online are recycled myths from people who shoot flowers and leaves. I've serviced over 100 vintage Soviet lenses and use them regularly on my own shoots. So in this video, I'm breaking down 10 questions I wish someone credible had answered for me when I bought my first Helios.
Why does the Helios-44-2 keep showing up in indie films, short films, and music videos? What's the appeal for filmmakers?
The Helios-44-2 shows up in a lot of indie projects because it gives filmmakers a different look from modern lenses. It's not overly sharp and it doesn't have that clean digital feel. Instead, it adds a bit of softness and depth that can make footage feel more natural and, I have to say, organic. What's interesting is that even big Hollywood productions often use vintage lenses, just rehoused versions with modern mounts. So it's not just a budget choice, it's a creative one. Filmmakers at all levels use vintage glass to get a look that stands out from the usual digital footage. Even if you are using a basic camera, putting a Helios on it can make your visual look more intentional and less generic.
What kind of look can filmmakers expect wide open at f2? Is it usable or just a mess?
Yeah, it's definitely usable. If you know what you are getting into and you embrace the chaos a little. At f2, the Helios gives you a sharp center, soft edges, lower contrast, and a gentle bloom in the highlights. But it's not a blurry softness. It still holds details where it counts, especially around the skin tones. The contrast is low in a really flattering way, and the sharpness fall off towards the corners actually helps draw attention to the center of your frame. It's subtle, but the highlights bloom just enough to take that digital edge off. It's the kind of quality no spec sheet can explain. You really have to see it in motion to get it.
Some filmmakers swear that KMZ copies have better rendering. Others say Valdai is junk. Does factory origin actually affect the image?
It doesn't really matter which factory the lens came from or what logo it has. That kind of stuff is more relevant if you're a collector or someone who enjoys pixel peeping. But for real-world filmmaking, what really matters is how well the lens has been looked after and whether it has been properly serviced by someone who actually knows how to get it working at its best. A well-cleaned, professionally aligned lens will almost always perform better than some good version according to a random username on the internet.
Let's bust a myth. Does the serial number actually tell you if the lens is a good one for filmmaking?
No, not really. The serial number can tell you when the lens was made, but that doesn't mean much when it comes to actual performance. It won't tell you if the helicoid is dried out, if the glass elements are slightly off alignment, or if there's haze inside from years of sitting around. As a filmmaker, what really matters is how the lens looks when you put it on your camera. The date it came off the Soviet assembly line doesn't matter nearly as much as how it performs in real-world shooting.
You've serviced dozens of these. What's the biggest deal breaker you see when someone buys one unserviced?
One of the biggest problems I see with these old Helios lenses is the grease. Over time, it dries up and hardens, and suddenly the focus ring feels like it's glued in place. I've bought lenses that looked absolutely perfect in photos. Clean glass, shiny body, everything that screams mint. But the moment I tried to pull focus, it feels completely off. Then there's the haze. A lot of these lenses have internal elements coated with vaporized grease. You won't always see it until you start shooting into a bright window or a light source. And then suddenly, your contrast is gone and the image looks flat. That's the thing. A lens can look beautiful on the outside and still perform terribly. I learned that the hard way, and it's why I started servicing and cinemodding these lenses myself. Now, every copy I sell is completely disassembled, cleaned and tuned properly, so when you get it, it just works. If you'd rather skip the gamble and get one that's already been tested for real world use, you can check out my store. The link's in the description.
When it comes to serviced vintage lenses, how important is it for them to be completely dust-free?
Honestly, not very. There's this misconception that serviced lens should be spotless, like it came out of a NASA clean room. But these lenses are 40, 50 years old. They have been used, tossed in camera bags, and probably serviced by a few different people over the decades. A bit of dust is completely normal, but what really matters is whether anything inside actually affects the image, like haze, fungus, or descented elements. Shining a light can help spot those issues, but seeing just a bit of dust doesn't mean the lens is unusable. You really have to understand the impact when you shoot with it, not inspecting it like a collector. Even those $3,500 rehoused Soviet lenses or $50,000 Canon FD cine sets, I doubt any of them are truly dust-free. It's vintage, not virgin.
What's the difference between a rare mint Helios-44-2 and a serviced cine-modded one?
So the difference really comes down to purpose. A rare mint Helios-44-2 might look beautiful. Maybe it still has the original caps, perfect paint, maybe it's been barely touched since the 70s, and that's awesome if you are collecting. But if you are a filmmaker, that doesn't mean much if you need to arm wrestle with a focus ring or the image looks like someone put the +1 different Pro mist. A service cine-modded Helios is a different story. It has been cleaned, lubricated, optically checked, and it's got smooth focus travel with follow focus gears, so it is ready to go on set. It might not look perfect on the outside, but it works exactly the way you need it to. At the end of the day, one is made to sit on a shelf, and the other is made to shoot.
Would you ever shoot a professional client project on a Helios-44-2?
Absolutely. I've had customers use the Helios-44-2 on professional projects, everything from music videos to short films to commercial brand content. I've personally used it along with other vintage Soviet lenses for fashion films and YouTube videos. The key is using it with intention. If the look suits the project, whether it's soft rendering, flares, or that vintage feel, it works. There's no rule says that a lens has to be a modern or expensive to be professional. In fact, vintage Soviet lenses have been used on major Hollywood films too.
What's the single biggest mistake you see filmmakers make when using vintage lenses like this?
The biggest mistake I see filmmakers make when using vintage lenses, especially something like the Helios-44-2, is expecting modern performance. If you are relying on edge-to-edge sharpness, fast autofocus, or perfectly controlled flares, you're probably going to get frustrated. But if you come in knowing what it's good at, like the beautiful bokeh, the organic rendering, the way it flares when you backlight it, you start to see magic. It's not about pixel peeping, it's about creating a look that feels different, something that stands out from a sea of clinically sharp footage out there today.
For a filmmaker on a budget, why go Helios over a cheap modern lens?
A cheap modern lens is exactly what it sounds like. It might be sharp, for sure, but the image it gives you is pretty generic. There's nothing unique about it. It's safe, it's average, and it often feels like it was built to be disposable. The Helios is different. It has a look that stands out. There's character in how it handles light, how it renders depth, and how it flares. It's not perfect, but that's kind of the point. If it's been properly serviced, it works smoothly and reliably, just like any other lens you'll bring on set. And here's the thing. This lens has already lasted 40 or 50 years. With the right care, it's going to keep working for decades. You're going to get a tool that holds up, not just something you replace with the next lens announcement. You have probably heard people say that certain logo or production year is the best version of Helios. After servicing over 100 of these vintage survey lenses, I got so tired of these baseless debates, so I tested 10 random Helios-44-2s from different factories and different years. Let's just say the results will make you question everything you thought you knew about this lens.